And more of that is about generational echoes quest for self-love. Intriguing or like where it comes. So I'm going to start with the things. What happened? An unforeseen companion. 2 years ago, I was pregnant. And I was really looking forward to have a baby. Was in the same year of the whole pandemic situation, and therefore it was also very difficult with the whole going to the hospital because you had to be alone. So one day I started to bleed. I went to the hospital, and my husband had to stay downstairs, like outside of the hospital. They made me go to a second floor, and I was sitting there for 2 hours. Alone and not alone, because I was accompanied by like 7 more women. But each of us were somehow alone. And one of them started to cry really hard. And she was saying, "This is my third time. I'm sure it's going to be a miscarriage." She was crying. It was difficult. And I was sitting there, very, I don't know, very naive somehow, feeling that I'm sorry for this person, but I didn't feel like really relating to this person. Until it was my turn to come into the consultation with the doctor, and then he read my story and he said, "Are you sure you were pregnant?" This is how I found out that I was pregnant. They couldn't find my history that I was actually pregnant. And 4 days before, I had my first echo, and I could see the heart. So after the moment, review again my story, my clinical story. So, oh yeah, sorry. I just wanted to, I was shocked. I wanted to run as far as I could. But they started to talk to me about the process, the whole protocol. Well, now for now you know that you take this pill and say, I want to go. I don't want to take anything. I want to go. No, but you have to confirm that you heard about the protocol and that you have to take this pill. I don't want to take anything. I want to go. And they could keep saying, okay, now if you have any symptoms, you have to come to the hospital in 2 weeks. So I came downstairs and I told my husband, I had a baby for 6 weeks. It doesn't seem very long. And it's actually the time that I was pregnant. It seems like years long. It was so intense, so many emotions as well, and that was too. That it was just too much for us, for both of us. So after that, what I got is this unforeseen companion, a tennis ball. You ever seen a tennis ball? Right? So a few months later, I started to have pain. They say, let's check you out. And there was starting a cyst on my ovaries, my left ovaries. That these days is the size of that tennis ball. If you think about it, our ovaries is the size of an almond. So that means that within the almond you have this tennis ball. So what's actually endometriosis? Let's go do some exercise, right? If I don't want to be talking all the time. Okay. So endometriosis is a urinary tract infection. True or false? All right, but I already gave you that answer. So actually, endometriosis is a disease in which the tissue similar to the lining of the uterus grows outside. So when we have our period, so we get this line. So instead of going down, it goes up. And when it goes up, it can just, decide to stop for a visit in your uterus, in your extent. Even there are some people that have it also in the throat. But it can go up as far as. So another question. Endometriosis affects an estimated 1 in 10 women during their reproductive years. So 190, 100 million women. What do you think? Is true or false? Okay, it's true more awake than thought. Good thing. Okay. So third test. There are several. Are you able to read this or is it too small? Fine. Okay. There are several treatment options available to cure endometriosis, and the causes are well established. Now I'm getting depressed. No, it's just a room full of women. No, but you wouldn't believe that even though in other conferences I've been in a room full of women, they don't know. So it's true what you said, it's false, because the causes of endometriosis remain unknown. They don't know what causes it. And there is no cure. There's only treatments to make it stop, like taking pills, but there is or to have surgery, depending on how difficult or how damaging it is. So far, there is no treatment to actually. So the last one. Currently, it takes between 7 to 10 years to diagnose it. True or false? It's true. So that means that actually this figure that I shared with you before, 190 people, might not be true. Why? Because there might be so many that they have no diagnosis yet. And what's one of the problems? We have been taught that when we have pain during our period, that's normal. So take something for the pain. Let me tell you, it's not normal. Get yourself checked. That's one part of the education we need to have about ourselves. It's not normal. Okay. So I'm going to do the second part. Let's see. I'm going to check my time because I love to talk and I talk too much. That's true. Okay. So the uncovering the unspoken truth. It took like 4 or 5 months to actually be diagnosed between endometriosis and a dysbiosis intestinal, which hurts like hell. So I spent some days, almost 8 hours, managing the pain. There was nothing that could help me with it, and I could just take and meditate for long hours because they didn't know what I had. And at some point, they thought that what the endometriosis is that was causing the illness, that was eating that day, but it wasn't. So I can say I'm a coach, I'm a therapist already for more than 15 years, and I've done more therapy in the last 2 years than in the rest of my life. Just because of this horrible pain and situation. And I've tried everything. I tried family constellation, systemic therapy, bioenergetics, biocoding, psychedelic therapy, acupuncture, osteopathy, gestalt therapy, everything. Why? Not the big why. Besides the pain, why? Because I was navigating the deepest hole in my life. Knowing and not knowing. So after all this digging, intensive digging, what did I find out with myself? Actually, a very astonishing truth. My body is filled with fear all over. And it's just in every cell of my body. And the biggest fear that I discover in my body is fear. Okay. Somehow, it's because of my body is complete. And let me ask you some questions. How many things do you pack in your purse or backpack just in case something happens? How many? Oh, come on, how many? 10, 12, just in case something happens, just in case. We're all the time just in case, like, right? Have there been moments when your body seems to react to a fear or a threat beyond your mind to process? Can you recall a time when you felt your intuition was trying to communicate a fear or a warning to you, but there was not a apparent threat? When walking alone at night in a place where there are no people around, I asked this to my husband and he said, I never thought about it. It's not even in my thoughts. Not to say. Physically threat. So I'm going to talk about the intergenerational trauma. What's that? So how come that my body's full of fear? Because despite my miscarriage and everything and immigrating and so on, I had life somehow. Really, I forgot about it. But it's still my body's a lot. So what's the intergenerational trauma? When a trauma happens, it changes, sometimes for generations. Okay? The grief, the suffering, the distress doesn't always end with us. What happens when it's not just about you? What happened to your mother, your grandmother, your great grandmother, your great grandmother, and so on. So I'm going to share with you an experiment. It's called the Sen of Survival Experiment. Once, this is a very recent research from 2019. What they did. So we have these really nice worms, okay? And they love fruit and everything that they find out, right? And this fruit is full of tiny bugs, right? And at some point, they don't really know what's good and bad for them. What bacteria within what they eat is good and bad for them. So what happened? One mother ate something that had a bad bug. Just before dying, she gave birth to her baby. Odd, but they do. What happened to this baby? These babies already know that they cannot eat that what the mother ate because of this bacteria. But they weren't taught that. They were born already knew it that it was so. Curious, right? Okay. At the end, we have an evolution somehow. We were talking yesterday about it. The way that also we survive, there is wisdom passed along us in all the generations, as well as traumas. Another experiment. And this morning I was, with the doctor from Tokyo, the cherry blossom. That's another experiment. Okay. What they did here, they took mouses, right, and they put the cherry blossom smell, and then they sucked it. They took like an extra small one, right? So the mice was afraid. They did that repeated times. Okay. What happened? The babies of those mouses would react to the cherry blossom scent, even though they weren't, submitted to the sapping, the shock. They were not, but they were, when they smell, they were jumping, even though they were not exposure to them. So the thing is that it didn't stop there. The grandbabies too. The grandbabies of the first mouse that were in this experiment, they were really sensitive to the same scent. So at the end, it's about sensitivity, not just fear. So what the grandparent mouse was taught, the grandkid already knew, not in the same shape and form, because they don't know why, but they know that it's something to be cared for. and they were sensitive to that specific smell, not to others. So at the end, the big picture, what it is, show how trauma can affect the ripple generation. There are also already experiments with human beings. Experiments, the more than experiments, research. For example, the mothers that were pregnant meanwhile the 9/11, or the kids or grandkids from the survivors from the Holocaust, and they can see people with PTSD symptoms even though they weren't that situation. Okay, so basically at the end, how does our biology carry trauma to the next generation? And now we're going to talk about here about epigenetics. Okay, I don't know if you heard. So at the end, this trauma, the problem is that it's not necessarily modifies our DNA. It doesn't modify, but it leaves a chemical mark on the person that can activate or not in the following generation. So at the end, what's the epigenetics? It's like when you have a textbook, right? It's not the same that you have the comma here or the comma after 2 or 3 more words. So the epigenetics is how your genes are expressed. So a full sentence have a different meaning if you have a comma at the beginning or if you have the comma first the end. So basically, we have the information within us, and depending what happened to us, this would just come around. In my case, was the loss of my kid. It was very traumatic experience that brought up some older trauma memories. The needs of the women. So what I discovered, more concrete, the first, I discovered that there was a lot of sexual abuse in the women. And I'm not talking necessarily my mother or my grandmother. I'm talking about even before my great-grandmother, great-great-grandmother. Because what happens when you have a trauma that repeats in different generations? It's being reinforced. What else did I find out? Being a woman. I even recall at some point there are some memories when my mother was pregnant of me. She was working in a very masculine environment, and I could feel like how she was diminished from being a woman. This world of men. She was despised. That's what she knew. She was a woman. What else did I see? It's the whole weight of psychological abuse. So yesterday I was talking to you about all these things that keep us as women for achieving, for feeding, for developing. Where do you think it comes from? Like, I'm not enough. I'm not enough for what? And at the end, what's the actual problem is that once your biggest temple, your home, which is your body, being a repeated different generations, how are you going to be enough for anything? That's the question. You have been robbed at your own home. And they took something that you cannot be happy, which is your being safe. Okay. So, and same here, the sad week. Why? Because honestly, currently among my 10 closest friends, half of them have been somehow covered, not just here, from different nationalities. And the thing is that, what is the global reality? The World Health Organization says this year that at least 1 in 3 women globally have faced physical or sexual violence. 1 in 3. You know how many women we're talking about? 1,000 million women. 1,000 million. And this is talking about the ones who talk about it. Again, like endometriosis, what happened when the ones who don't know, who doesn't talk about it? they think it's normal to get this somehow. And the comfortable truth is it's more common than we like to admit. We don't talk about it. And the problem is not talking about it, which is, of course, part of the problem, that we cannot get it out of our bodies. So, I'm going to go to a more cheery part because otherwise it's gloomy, right? Okay. What has caused all this process? From self-abandonment to self-love. My friend, the tennis ball here. So what are you here, basically? I have had this conversation with my endometriosis a lot of times. Like, what are you doing here? Like, really? Are you frightening me or what's the point? And actually, what is teaching my tennis ball, what has taught me so far, after I lost my head, I lost faith in God. I don't know if you have lived sometimes, but you feel like there's no point. There's really no point. Nothing, no matter what happens, like no point. Where there's no hope. And the thing is that when I started this grief, I just let myself go. It spiraled into poor habits, overwork. I couldn't say no. I would just abandon myself. So this is why the chemical came and say, hey, lady, what are you doing? Right? So at the end, it was a way to escape the deep pain that I was feeling. And the tennis ball together with the dysbiosis intestinal, so meaning that I have bowel pain in my bowel daily, on a daily basis, actually they gave me what is the path of self-reflection, understanding what was in me, what was the cause, what was the trigger. So just a few slides to swim it up. Endometriosis for me is more than an illness. It's an invitation to change what? First, to be aware that yes, I have a body full of fear with all kinds of sexual abuse, that it hasn't happened, but I could tell that I have experienced PSTD symptoms like I was, but I wasn't. So my sexual life at the beginning of when I was younger, it was difficult, and I didn't know why. And rediscovering myself. All this I'm not enough. I also understood that it's part of what you are doing at this. When they take you out of your body, they broke you what you are, who you are. And all these limited beliefs at the end, as women, where do you think they come from? In my case, in my feminine lineage, I can tell you, it comes from sexual abuse. It comes from because we are women, we are not from the top, we cannot be smart. As the generations ago. Or the other thing is perfection, because you mentioned it's perfection. One of the things that I realized, I was actually some stuff, like really, and I realized that I'm overcompensating because if I'm not enough, because my body is broken, I have to do perfect. And this perfection at the end is it's a vicious cycle that goes back to I'm not enough as a who I am. Living differently. So setting boundaries is a common thing, right? It's easy to say, but hard to do. For me at least. And ending the self-abuse and allowing others to abuse. In which sense? The self-abuse. I'm going to do homework because I have to do it perfect. Before I go to work as many hours as I'm going to just not eat, and I'm going to do it, I will take vacations, and this has to be just a list of non-stop. That's me self-abusing myself. And year ago when I was working in the corporate world, whatever I was asked, how many hours I had to put, I was saying this. I was letting them to abuse because I could say no. Sometimes I. And at the end, the self-love is listening, caring, and loving for my body. It's actually reconnecting with my body. The problem is what's the actual more than the problem is what's the challenge. If my body is full of fear, if I actually stop and listen, what do I need and what I have to do, I'm going to find all these stories. That's why it's hard to reconnect with ourselves. Reconnect what we need. Okay. So I'll leave you with a question. Which silent traumas are coloring your present, creating a lens through which you see and feel the world? Any questions or comments? Yes. But yes, I'm on it. I want to write a book, but I still I have not enough to write the book, so I'm fighting with myself. No, I'm not. But I'm gonna